Hi guys, welcome back. So last time what we learned was how to parse JSON into strongly typed instances and use those instances. We parse the product जो fake store API से आ रहा है. We parsed all of those data in an instance of product. Use that product का instance inside the product card and changed all this जो भी dynamically हम लोग get कर रहे थे की को यूज करके स्ट्रिंग कीज यूज करके उसके जगह पे वी आर यूजिंग स्ट्रांगली टाइप्ड इंस्टेंसेस राइट नाउ. ठीक है, सो दिस हैज रिड्यूस्ड द मार्जिन ऑफ एरर अ लॉट. ठीक है, बट स्टिल देयर इज स्कोप फॉर इम्प्रूवमेंट. वन मेजर स्कोप फॉर इम्प्रूवमेंट इज दीज क्लासेस जो अभी मैनुअली लिखना पड़ रहा है. फॉर शॉर्ट स्मॉल मॉडल्स दिस इज वेल एंड गुड, आराम से चल जाएगा, नो प्रॉब्लम. बट व्हेन यू आर क्रिएटिंग प्रोडक्शन ग्रेड एप्स देर आर मेनी मॉडल्स, बहुत सारे अलग अलग टाइप ऑफ स्कीमास है, बहुत सारे नेस्टेड स्कीमास रहेंगे एंड डूइंग दिस एंटायर थिंग फॉर ऑल ऑफ देम इज एक्सट्रीमली टाइम कंज्यूमिंग. एंड अगेन सिंस बहुत सारा चीज़ तुम लोग मैनुअली करोगे द स्कोप फॉर एरर इंक्रीजेस. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल यहाँ पे अभी भी हम लोग हार्ड कोडेड स्ट्रिंग्स यूज कर रहे हैं, राइट? तो इधर अगर कुछ गलती हुआ तो ऑब्वियसली इट इज गोइंग टू थ्रो एन एरर. सो if we can reduce this even further, that would be great, right? So for this what we use is usually JSON serializable करके एक package है, ठीक है, which is made by the Google team themselves. And this package is very commonly used with many different other packages. And JSON के लिए JSON serializable built value, these are the two packages जो बहुत commonly use होता है. इसके अलावा I'll also show you one another package which I very commonly use, and last में I'll also discuss why I prefer using that package as to this one, right? So but since this is one of the very commonly used package, let us see how this works also, right? So since this is a different package altogether, इसको अलग से install करना पड़ेगा obviously. But installing this package is not simply just copy pasting, थोड़ा और काम है. So if you go to this setup part and if you open this, you will find कि JSON serializable gets added as a dev dependency and not as a dependency. ठीक है, so there are two types of dependencies in Flutter. One is dependency जिसके ऊपर तुम लोग का कोड डायरेक्टली डिपेंडेंट है, जो तुम लोग को प्रोडक्शन में भी यूज होगा, जरूरत है. ठीक है, dev dependencies are dependencies which have no role in production, ठीक है, but development के टाइम पे बहुत जरूरी है. ठीक है, तो I'll copy these two and I'll paste it in spec and I'll copy this JSON annotation, paste it here and update. Once this, yep, so once this is done, exactly what are these dependencies used for, I'll come to that in a minute. Okay, what we'll do is we'll remove this entire thing. Okay, by the way, if you want this code, I'll put a link to GitHub description में मिल जाएगा तुम लोग को वो चीज. ठीक है, and यहाँ पे I'll actually use an annotation called as JSON serializable. ठीक है, so if you see automatically यहाँ पे JSON annotation करके एक package import हो गया and JSON serializable करके annotation है. ठीक है, you can find these annotations even here, ठीक है, in the example, right? So यहाँ पे again we have these same things, ये तो नहीं बदलने वाला, right? And then after that what we'll have is we'll have, I'll just copy paste this thing and remove this. Obviously अपना person नहीं है, for us it is product, and control G. By the way, the shortcut for that is control G in Mac. ये हुआ. Then now this actually tells me कि अरे ऐसा कोई चीज है नहीं, right? So you need to create something like this or do something of that sort. So I'm not going to deal with this error. Rather what I'll do is यहाँ पे if you see this part, I'll just copy this. The naming of this has to be same as that of, it does not need to be same, but it's a very common convention to keep it same, better रहेगा, right? So before doing this, actually what we should do is, since we are going to have multiple files, तो rating का भी एक file है, right? So we should create a folder models करके and copy this inside that folder, refactor, so that this is created. Again, the same thing for JSON serializable, and I'll copy this, paste. Okay. Again, इसमें भी part rating.g.dart. ठीक है. Once this is done, ये सब code changes हो गया. What I'll do is I'll actually dart run build runner build. What this command is going to do is, this command is going to generate two files. Okay, one which is rating.g.dart and one which is product.g.dart. Good thing we found it. One which is product.g.dart. What these files are going to have is basically implementation for these particular functions. Okay, so if I run this right now, so ये जो build runner है, this build runner is nothing but this dependency that we added, right? So in order for JSON serializable to work, it creates few generated files, okay? And for creating that generated files, it requires this build runner dependency. इसलिए ये build runner dependency and JSON serializable, both of them are dev dependency, because once they are generated, उसके बाद उसका कुछ role नहीं है. Whereas JSON annotation is important. It is a production dependency. Why? We'll get to know that. Once this is done, so यहाँ पे if you see, दिख रहा है? So this product.g.dot, whatever we wrote manually, same चीज almost पूरा यहाँ पे auto generated आ गया, ठीक है? And this is a generated code, so never ever इसमें कुछ changes करो मत, because this is going to get overridden every now and then, ठीक है? So don't make changes inside it, करना भी नहीं पड़ेगा. But since these are generated files, always add them to your git ignore, ठीक है? You don't require these generated files to go in your source control. उनका उधर कोई रोल नहीं है, because ultimately simply running this dart run build runner build will always generate the same files altogether. तो उसको commit मत करो, जरूरत नहीं है, ठीक है? And once this is done, see यहाँ पे देखो rating dot from JSON. So automatically, since rating was also किधर गया, हाँ, since rating is also marked as JSON serializable, ऑटोमेटिकली प्रोडक्ट के अंदर उसने वो पर्टिकुलर फंक्शन उठा के उसको भी पार्स कर दिया. सो नाउ आवर आउटपुट इज ऑब्वियसली गोइंग टू रिमेन द सेम. आउटपुट में कुछ फर्क नहीं आएगा. इनफैक्ट आई विल हैव टू स्टॉप दिस एंड काइंड ऑफ रीरन, बेटर रहेगा. सो नाउ इफ यू सी, अपना whatever we wrote manually, all of them got reduced, and also nested objects are much more easier to handle now, because सबके लिए बैठ के तुम लोग को मैनुअली नहीं करना पड़ेगा, वो ऑटोमेटिकली वो सब हैंडल कर रहा है. एज फार एज आउटपुट इज कंसर्न, आउटपुट इज सेम, आउटपुट में कुछ फर्क नहीं है. एट द सेम टाइम इफ यू सी हियर, यहाँ पे भी कोड में कुछ फर्क नहीं है. वी आर लिटरली iterating it and we are running the from JSON method, right? Ultimately, JSON annotation is not just for this one thing. It can also be used for using a different key with a different variable. For example, say suppose मेरा description का variable is just desc. Okay, but when the data comes in, it comes in with the key of description, right? So what I can do is I can use an annotation of JSON key, okay, which again comes from this particular JSON annotation package, and उसमें I can actually give lot more details. उसके साथ साथ I can basically state कि description key में जो आ रहा है, ठीक है, pick that value and give it to me in this particular DESC string. So once I make this change again, ये directly नहीं होगा. For me to actually have this change done in the code itself, what I'll need to do is I'll need to run run build runner build. So once this build runner is done, अरे हो जा, कितना टाइम लग रहा है? Yeah. So once this build runner is done, if you see description करके की variable desc करके variable में it is now giving description key का value. ठीक है, so this the annotation package mainly governs किसके around अपने को JSON में खेलना है actually, right? So there are lot more values that you can actually use here, lot more parameters. You can give it a default value, you can state whether it is going to be nullable. You can also give it a function which will take care of deserializing only this one particular value. ठीक है, and all of this are located here. यहाँ पे पूरा दिख जाएगा तुम लोग को. You can actually हाँ यहाँ पे, so if you see यहाँ पे there is a from JSON and to JSON and static type के through उसको parse किया. ठीक है, so this actually helps us a lot in deserializing and serialization of bigger chunks of data, but ultimately कर तो यहाँ पे manually रहा है, parse तो यहाँ पे अभी भी manually हो रहा है because product.fromJSON खुद call करना पड़ रहा है, and at the same time this creates many different files and adds a lot of code to your existing software, existing application, and it does not actually handle list on its own, which is one of the biggest pain point for me at least. Okay, so what I prefer using rather than JSON serializable is actually another package called as Dart.json mapper, and how this handles and how Dart.json mapper makes things easier as far as JSON is concerned, we'll look into it in the next video. Bye.